Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. So today's topic is going to be a little interesting because there was a film that is celebrating an anniversary, and it's going to be this week, and that is Spider-Man No Way Home. So this film was an absolute phenomenon for a number of reasons, and it made oodles of money, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But it was just how long people had wanted this film and waited for this film and everything else. So, a couple of quick updates here. Anybody who is familiar with this, Spider-Man was introduced all the way back in Civil War, okay? And he was then in Infinity War and he was then in Endgame. So this is kind of a continuation of that story. So this stars obviously Tom Holland as Spider-Man slash Peter Parker, Zendaya, John Favreau, Marissa Tomei. So the big Burnett Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange. So you're having the big thing about this was you're bringing all of these different villains into this universe. Alfred Molina playing Doc Ock. You have Jamie Foxx as Electro, and a couple others. So this is just a huge. Not to mention, we're going to get into cameos too, but just a um, big movie. So first and foremost, this was the third Spider-Man film directed by John Watts, who had just had a lot of success with Far From Home and Homecoming. So then on top of that, this was actually the beginning of Phase 4. So this, I think there's a couple reasons why this film did so well. First of all, it was the beginning of Phase 4, so we're post-Endgame. Second of all, it was kind of like a continuation of the story between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and everything else that you saw in Endgame. And third, it had all of the cool elements you wanted. It had cameos, it had callbacks, it had everything. Um, so, but more importantly, why it was such a success. So this was the first, and this is before Top Gun Maverick. This was the very first movie that got people back to the box office, right? Um, this was this was a movie that everybody was really eager to see. We were still in COVID times, and they didn't know when this would be released or how it would be released or anything else. And so this movie really got people back to the box office in the movies. Um, and that was huge. This is one of the movies. This is probably one of the two movies that saved the box office and saved movie theaters and everything else. Um, so yeah, it just it, it was so good on so many levels, right? It was emotional, it was funny, it was dramatic. So it had cameos. Okay, so I want to get in. So money wise, this was a monster movie. I mean, it was just huge what it did. I'm going to read off a couple of these records that it holds because these will never get broken. Um, so opening weekend, it ranks number 2. It's the second highest opening weekend of all time, only behind Avengers Endgame. And Endgame, you're going to see this Endgame's going to come up a lot in these records because Endgame made over $2 billion, and so Endgame had made $357 million opening weekend, and you're never going to see that again. Spider-Man, I had predicted, I thought it was going to do back then. I thought it was going to do 220, 230. It blew up for $260 million opening weekend. That is incredible. That drove everybody to the theaters. Domestically, all time, it ranks third all time, making $814 million. Think about that for a minute. That's almost $1 billion. And there's only 2 movies ahead of it: Star Wars The Force Awakens and Avatar. So that's incredible in itself. Opening weekend, now this is going to be worldwide when I talk about this one. Worldwide, it ranks number three, third all time, guys. Only behind Avengers Infinity War, which made $640 million, and Endgame, which made almost twice as much as $1.22 billion. Spider-Man No Way Home, overall worldwide, made $600 million. Now, this is all-time box office. It's number 6. I mean, we can talk about the movies that were there as well. You got Avengers Infinity War, you got Avengers Endgame, you got Avatar, you got the Star Wars The Force Awakens. Okay, so those are all, locks there in that respect. The biggest month. It holds the record for the biggest month for opening weekends of all time at $260 million in December last year. Okay. I mean, that's just incredible for December. I mean, what movie would you think would make over $250 million in a month? Opening day, once again, it made $127.9 million one day, only ranking behind Endgame at $157.4 million. Um, here's a little something that's interesting. So it made $260 million its opening weekend, right? Blew away at whatever it was that was in the box office there. It dropped 64%, which normally when you want a film to go down, usually you want it to drop anywhere between 35 to 45%. That's your normal half-life. I'm going to call it a half-life because week to week to week. Okay. So the second week this movie was out, it made only, and I say only, $84 million. That's incredible. The next week, it made only $56 million. The week after that, it only made $32 million, which, by the way, was number one at the box office all those weeks. Okay? 88, it's $168 million. So in 4 weeks, this movie makes almost $500 million here in the United States. Forget about what it's doing overseas. Okay? Almost $500 million. The last record that's interesting is this. Usually when a film is out for a couple of weeks, people have seen it and everything else. And this was really one of the reasons why Spider-Man No Way Home was so popular. Because of the longevity of it, right? So this was number one week after week after week after week. It was, for 7 weeks, it was the number one film in America for 6 of those weeks. On January 14th of this year, okay, Scream came out. The reboot of Scream that made $30 million. Spider-Man No Way Home only made $22 million. And was just, this thing just kept rolling and rolling. It was a steamroller. It just made oodles and oodles and oodles about. So let's talk about something else. Why was it so good? So Marvel, as we all know, is very good at story. They just are. One of the main reasons why it was so good was the callbacks and the cameos. Let's talk about the cameos real quick. I mean, the first 15 or 20 minutes, you see Daredevil, Charlie Cox. When he gets, not even the first 15 minutes. So when they get back to Peter's place, you see Charlie Cox sitting down and saying, in case you need a lawyer, you're in the clear. And then the brick comes through the window, right? And saves Peter's life because somebody threw a brick at him. Of course, he's blind, Daredevil, and there's a whole great series coming out next year, Daredevil, It's going to be like 15 episodes. It's going to be amazing on Disney Plus. So that was the first cameo. All of the other cameos were just fantastic as well. The ones that everybody was looking forward to, right, were Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire finally coming back, and you're having all of the Peters get together on one screen at one time, and it was the comedy and the writing. It was just amazing. Not only that, you had Alfred Molina come back as Doc Ock, reprising his role. I mean, you had the whole freeway scene. That was just incredible. Um, and then you have Green Goblin with William Dafoe. You know, of course, he was the classic villain in the original Spider-Man, this Sam Raimi one. And then you had Electro. Jamie Foxx came back, even for a small portion, and that worked. And so, not to mention, so the alternative, this is where everything came to be, where he wants to go to Doctor Strange and you know, have everybody say, "I don't want anybody knowing that I'm Spider-Man." And so the spell gets messed up, and next thing you know, all these enemies from all these different time and places come, and that's where we have Toby and Andrew come in, and so it just worked. Nostalgia is one of those things when you can do it well. It's an amazing thing. I mean, all you got to do is look at the Top Gun first trailer of Top Gun. I mean, all you had, and it was perfect. You had Tom Cruise racing down a runway with the plane next to him. You had the volleyball scene or the football scene at that point, okay? And then you had Miles Teller singing Great Balls of Fire, just like, Goose did back in 1986. People love that. And if you can channel it well, forget about it. It works so well. Yeah, so this movie just kept going on and on and on and on. I've seen it twice. I love it, as millions of other people do. And it really, as I said, it changed the box office, but it saved the box office too. Because this is one of those films that it got people out, right? It got people out of the theater or out of their homes into the theater to see something. And at that point in time, people needed something to smile at. People needed something to laugh at. And that's what the magic of movies can do. And it's hard to believe that we're 1 year out from this. And I mean, it even had the re release in September, and it's still made, you know, like 10, $20 million. People just love this movie, even if you don't love Phase 4. And I'll be honest with you, this is one of the few films of Phase 4 that hit for me. I mean, you had Shang-Chi, okay? You had Spider-Man No Way Home, and, you know, that's really it. I mean, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness wasn't that good. It was all right. It's had its problems. Thor Love and Thunder had its problems. Wakanda Forever, I would say, is the others. So those are the three films that really did it for me. Um, but yeah, it's just what Spider-Man No Way Home did, you're never going to see again. You say, well, what about Avatar that's coming out? I think with this new Avatar movie, which, by the way, we're going to be talking about in a couple weeks, or next week, I should say. It opens next week. Um, I think it's going to do its money. It's going to make loads of money. They're going to have to print money for this. I just don't think you're going to see this make $2 billion. I don't. Even if I watched the trailer the other night. Unbelievable in a movie theater. I can't wait to see this in IMAX. But I have a problem with a movie coming out 15 years later, almost 15 years later. So it's going to be good. I mean, the Golden Globes just came out today. James Cameron just got nominated for Best Director. I mean, it's tough competition, but we'll see what happens there. But, you're never going to see this kind of money made again. Um, if I had to put a number on it today, as of the 12th, I would say it will make 130, $140 million, which is phenomenal, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, all you got to do is look at Wakanda Forever. That just made $11 million as we speak today, and that's in its third or fourth week. And that's why Marvel put it in November deliberately, because they knew that Avatar was going to be a juggernaut. So, all that being said, though, I love this movie. I loved everything about it. The cameos. I mean, the callbacks were just amazing. Like when MJ's falling and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saves her. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I got a little emotional because anybody who's seen the Spider-Man 2, the Spider-Man 2, when he loses Gwen Stacy, um, you know, and Andrew was amazing in this. He was unbelievable, as was everybody else. I mean, it got me. I mean, Aunt May dying. Come on, it's just they know how to tug at your emotions and tug at your heartstrings to get you to the place you need to be at. Anyways, on that note, guys, speaking of next year, we've got a lot of stuff coming up for you in the coming year, 2023. We have our Perfect Movies series coming up. We have our first reactions. We have our spoiler casts. We have our interviews, and we have much, much more. So, if I can ask a favor, please like and subscribe. We've got a ton of stuff coming up for you in 2023. And the weekly roundup. I don't forget about that. You guys are going to be getting a weekly roundup on a weekly basis of the biggest stories in Hollywood, and do that. But like I said, please like and subscribe. My goal here in 2023 is to get this out to as many people as I possibly can. And yeah, it's just you guys are what drives me to actually make these videos. So, I want to do the very best possible job I can for you. Um, yeah, okay. So that's it. Until Don't forget, we've got I should say one last thing. Don't forget, we do have The Last of Us coming out, which starts the 15th of January. Oh my God, almost a month. But yeah, so Kyle and I are going to be talking about The Last of Us every single week. I'm going to be getting those episodes out to you too. There is a ton of stuff out there for you guys. So please, I know I said it again, please like and subscribe, and, you know, tell your friends about us. Um, and I am on Twitter, and I will leave the link in the description as well, at Wannabe Rounder. Kyle is on Twitter as well at Arking. I'll leave the link in the description. It's easier. But okay, guys, thank you very much. Take care, be safe, and have a great day. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks.